Good morning. It's early here, getting ready to watch the sunrise on the beach. I don't know if you can see it, but probably got to come out in another 15-20 minutes. I'm probably the only idiot out here with a computer and a phone recording a podcast. But I want to work through a couple more questions. This one's from Lana Atkinson. Hi, thanks for answering these questions. I have a refrigerator that works, but it's not cooling 100% properly. The soonest I can get a new one delivered is in a few days. Tenant is mad because the unit isn't running efficiently and is going to affect your electric bill. My question is, how do you handle this? This comes up all the time. There's definitely a disconnect between what tenants know about properties and the realities. And the reality is that properties break. They break all the time. So my question is, every time someone breaks, is should the owner, should the landlord, should the property manager have known that this is going to happen? Were they neglectful in any way? And often they're not. I mean, a central air unit, for example, is probably the most extreme. A refrigerator is actually pretty bad as well. Or losing heat, things of this nature, things that really affect the quality of someone's life. Even in those extreme situations, when there's not a landlord who's actually at blame, when there's not a property manager who's at blame, properties break. And our response when a tenant approaches us and will ask us for some type of compensation to say, hey, my refrigerator's not working. It didn't work for a week, and I couldn't use my space that I'm paying you for adequately, so I would like you to compensate me. We don't. And again, our response to the tenant is, we certainly understand. I wouldn't want to live without a refrigerator either, but properties break. And it's not a good news for the landlord. It's not good news for the property owner, who now has to replace that refrigerator. It's certainly not good news for the tenant. It's not good news for the property manager, who now has to figure out how to get a new refrigerator there. So, as unfortunate as it is, the reality is that often no one is to blame, and it's a burden for all. It's not reasonable to accept a tenant's request to compensate them in some way every time something does break. Again, if in a different type of situation, if the owner really should have known that this was going to happen, if the property manager should have known this was going to happen, if there's somehow a refrigerator repair guy came in and said, hey, this refrigerator's on its last legs, if you got to fix it, that might be a different story. This is off topic, but in extreme cases, this becomes a situation of constructive eviction, where if the property truly can't be habitated, then the lease would just null and void, the lease being in contract. The parties would go their separate ways. If the tenant truly couldn't live in the property, say a giant sinkhole came in front of the home and they couldn't get in their door because, if they did, they would fall to their death. In that case, construction eviction comes in. The landlord doesn't have to compensate the tenant. The tenant, of course, certainly doesn't have to keep paying this landlord rent for this property that they can't use. The lease just kind of null and voids. It just severs. Just the contract ends. Hopefully that helps.